Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the 0364AA automatic door bottom. Here's what it looks like. That neoprene is sticking out long. That's typical for zero on this door bottom. A very large, very generous piece of neoprene that's there. Yep, it's definitely neoprene. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what they're used for. Let's talk about it dimensionally. Let's talk about how you use it, how you install it, how you adjust it. So first of all, automatic door bottoms. They are intended to seal the door when the door closes. When the door is open, it's retracted back in its housing, just like you see it now. Okay? So, neat concept. I think a lot of people initially overthink these. When the door is open, it's up in its housing. When the door closes, it drops down. Okay? Before we get into how that all works, let's just define what this one is. A 364 is representative of the fact that it's a door bottom. It is a mortised style door bottom, means that you're going to mortise out the bottom of the door per the diagram below here, below this video. Okay. So this is considered a mortise type with a neoprene seal. The dimensions that are being given here are of the actual item itself. Okay, and we're going to go over that. Let's just go over it now. They're saying that it's 0.924 thousandths of an inch thick at its thickest portion. So basically 15/16 of an inch, and that's what it is. It's just shy of 1 inch. Okay. Overall height is going to be about 1 11/16. So they're giving you 1.575 just of the housing itself to the top of the bottom flange. Pardon me, to the bottom of the flange. You can't even see that. Let's do it this way. So about 1 and 5/7, about 1 9/16, just over 1.5 inch. 1/8 of an inch is the thickness of the flange on the bottom. Okay. So you've got to route a fairly large channel, you know, basically a 1 inch channel on the bottom of your door. I wouldn't go, so let's talk about mortising for this. So at this point, you're going to need to mortise the bottom of the door. This material is, you know, 15/16 of an inch basically. I would probably mortise this at 1 inch because 1 inch is a common size to have a router bit if you're going to use a router to do this. Plus, I wouldn't make it much bigger because you can see the dimension from the hole to the housing itself on both sides is quite tight. If you were to make that 1 1/8 inches, you'd probably still be okay, but at that point you're going to get so close to the screw hitting the void of your mortise. Okay, so I wouldn't make it any bigger than that at all. And then of course the depth, you know, you're going to make that, you know, 1 11/16. Give the item a little room to breathe. Give it a little room to breathe so you can get it screwed to exactly where you want it. Okay. Available only in aluminum because it's a mortised style. You would never see this when the door is closed. Available in several different lengths on the website, and you're going to want to order it specifically the length that you want. And here's why. Let's get into the operation of this. So, in principle, and by the way, there's a link below this video to the installation, which shows everything important about installing it. There's 4 steps, and we've already covered 3 of them, so they're easy to install in terms of once you've got the door mortised. Mortising a wood door for a weekend warrior kind of guy, while it's not technically difficult to do, you might find that you don't have the tools to do it, and that's usually the problem with mortised style door bottoms. You don't possess the right tools to get it done easily. You're going to want a router bit. You know what, before we talk about the operation, if I was going to install this, I would lay my door down on sawhorses. Okay, and I would use a plunge router with, on the bottom of the router base itself, I'm going to just make a crude drawing, I would have a heavy aluminum angle. So I'm not making this up. This is how I've done this in the past. So here's your router. Okay, you got your two handles and you've got your router. Now onto the base. If we're going to look at the base in a cross section, looking at only the bottom of the router with the base and the bit projecting out, plunge router, because you're going to need to be able to get the bit in slowly, one at a, just a 3/16 of an inch at a pass. I would install, and I'm drawing it onto here now, an angle like this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to retract, I'm going to pull the router bit out of the way. I'm going to lay it on end like this. Now imagine that the router bit is not there. So I would take that assembly and I would lay it flat on the door with the face of the aluminum angle touching the face of the door. And I would probably put some masking tape on that so you don't scratch the door. You're going to put that down there and you're going to use it as just a straight edge in which to come down and pass over your door like that. Okay, then you can change the depth, set the depth and come back and make another pass. Where you install the angle has to be thought out, because let's just assume you're going to want the center of your bit to be in the center of your door, so you're going to have to do the math to determine where that angle is going to fall. Okay, now I can't really think of any way to do this by hand. You're going to need a fixture or a template. Whether you're making one of these or you're making 10 of these, you're going to have a proper fixture to do this. And that's in the past how I've done this. In the past also I've been in a situation where I've been in a production setting where making one of these wasn't typical. Making 10 of them was typical, so the investment to make the fixture was there. And that you'd have a fixture for every situation. You could even make slots in your angle so that you can change the depth with your wing nuts, etc. Typical woodworking stuff. I don't make my living as a woodworker, but I am dangerous on my feet when it comes to knowing how to do this. So now, back to how these work. What you see here is you've got this end. Notice the brass nut. And you've got the other end. Notice there is no brass nut. Okay, so you get this installed into the door and you're going to trim your neoprene exactly how you want it, whatever length. You might leave it a little bit long. And if I was doing this, I would want this the actual size of the door. Okay, if you've got a beveled door, if we cut it to length for you, we're not going to be able to cut it on a bevel for you. You might want to go with the small side or go with the bigger side, and then you could probably file that a little bit or go halfway in the middle kind of thing. All right, now, the way that you get the bottom to drop is by depressing this plunger. I'm going to call this the plunger now, this brass nut, it's plunger. You set that by turning this plunger, and right now I'm turning it counterclockwise, and I'm going to put this down so I can do it quicker. And I'm just going to turn it out a few turns here. And the point of me turning it counterclockwise is to get it to project out of the edge more than it was. Okay, now, imagine this. You've got this installed in the bottom of the door. When the door closes, this is going to make contact with the jamb. Okay? With the rabbet of the frame. It's going to make contact. The more you push the door closed, this has only one way to go, and that's in. So, when I push this plunger in to emulate the door closing, and it's hard to do it with just your hand, but you can see that the bottom starts to come out. can see that it starts to come out up top. Okay? Put that screwdriver down there. There you go. So that bottom comes out like that. So I can push it with my hand. The bottom comes out uneven like that, and that's normal. And what happens is it's going to hit the floor at a certain point, and as it does, it will force the rest of the bottom to contour to whatever grade your sill is at. Assuming that it's level, this is just going to come down, stop to where it hits, and then it's going to just come down like a guillotine. It'll drop and then go like this is how these work. So it drops, well, it drops and then it comes down and seals across your sill real nice. That is in principle how these work. Not in principle, that's how they work. The more that you project the plunger out of its housing, the more the bottom will physically drop. Okay? Maximum drop on these are typically 7/8 of an inch. I am not seeing a hard dimension here, but pretty universally it's 7/8 of an inch maximum drop. It's safe to assume that it will drop that amount. Okay. What is also included, obviously screws, okay, to get it attached. There's a small plastic plug there that you're going to push into the end of the plunger. It's got a little receiver for it there. And that's so that when it makes contact with the aluminum plate, pardon me, some manufacturers feature a plate that you attach to the jamb. This Zero product does not. That little plastic grommet there is such that when it hits the frame, it's not gouging into steel, let's say, or into the wood. Included in the package are two end plates, one just rectangular, the other has a hole drilled in it, and that's for the plunger end, obviously. And you'll have to cut that neoprene pretty close. So you can see from the instructions below this video that Zero has several different models available. Your mortised, such as this one, your semi-mortised, which is just like a surface mount, but that you've mortised the face of the door to incorporate that in so that it's flush. It's a real nice feature. Okay. The unit can be cut. It can be cut down generally about 4 inch. The instructions that are included with the unit are the same as what you've got in that link. Referring to the product brochure that is also below this video, shows you this and all of its sister related products. Okay. Zero, as you look at this, they make automatic door bottoms for every application, including lead-lined door applications. Okay, so if you have an X-ray room, in a dental office or a hospital, obviously, anywhere, that would be the case. Generally, this material can be cut down just a few inches. Okay, certainly you can cut it down 2 inches, and generally 4 inches, but don't count on cutting it down any more than about 2 inches. Now, the indicator of almost how far you can cut this down is that screw that's there, or whatever device is at the opposite end of the plunger side, holding what is called the flat spring. So it's a piece of steel, spring steel, that when the plunger is depressed, forces the spring steel to bow. That bowing action is what forces the bottom to drop. Okay? I'm a fan of since the factory is going to cut this already to make it for you, indicate in the comment field what actual length you want this to ship out at, and then the factory will provide it at that length. It's not that it's hard to cut these, but you know, you're going to need to have a miter box saw to cut through this. It's going to make a lot of chatter, going to make a lot of noise as it's doing so as well. So I'm a fan of letting Zero cut this to length. Then you don't have any trouble worrying about, am I going to cut it too far? You know, safely you've got realistically 4 inches built in here. And that's just not a problem to cut it. However, the manufacturer is going to cut this to length for you out of long extrusions. Might as well let them do, you know, cut it to the length so you don't have to recut it. You'll have a nice factory edge on it as well. Very solid, very huge piece of neoprene that's in here. You know, and what's really nice about this design, and I can't show you on the item itself because it's too far concealed, is the feature of, in the drawing below this video, the anti-squeak rubber. Anti-squeak rubber is what they call it. A couple of gaskets that are installed into the extrusion, the inner extrusion, such that as it's going in and out of the housing, and as the door is opened abruptly, the flat spring is decompressed and the bottom will snap back up. You hear that, and there have been people who have complained that they're too loud. Yeah, sure, you can definitely hear them, and while too loud is subjective, that anti-squeak rubber goes a long way to reducing that sound that you hear. So when I project it out and I let it snap back, you can hear it, but it's definitely muffled when compared to other items, making Zero a unique manufacturer in the sense that they've got unique solutions to ideas that a lot of people, quite frankly, don't think about, making their products, in my opinion, preferable. Very good quality customer service, very knowledgeable customer service, very good fit and finish on their products. Okay, and I've mortised doors for these. I've installed these. They work fantastic. You can expect that they'll work forever. What they're nice for is a door. Let's say you've got carpeting. So if you have a typical door sweep, you're just going to rub across the carpeting all the way inside and out. But if you've got a device like this, that will, when the door is open, snap back into its housing, allowing you to sweep through your opening and closing cycle without hitting anything. That's really a great feature to have. Sure, they're expensive, and sure, they're hard to get on. They're complicated, they're involved to install, but once you've got it, that solution is done. Great quality product. If you have any questions on the Zero 364AA automatic mortised door bottom or any other Zero product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.